Greetings viewers, JLB here, back with another edition of Animation Cinema, and tonight's program we dive into one of the more musical Disney films that was released in the 40s or at any time, the concert feature from 1940, Fantasia. Now, for those of you who know your Disney history, Fantasia was the third animated film that Disney ever released. And if you don't know your Disney history, here's the brief history behind Fantasia. You see, Walt felt that his iconic character Mickey Mouse was getting a little bit bland and boring by the time the 40s came around. So he decided to relaunch Mickey Mouse with a special rebirth in the form of the Silly Symphony short called Fantasia. Well, not Fantasia. I mean the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Sorry, my mistake. Anyhow, it was supposed to be a cartoon that would relaunch Mickey Mouse, but as the expenses of the feature kept going up, Roy kept telling his brother Roy that they needed to find a way to make the short less expensive, because they thought, well, the rest of the studio and Roy, mostly Roy, thought that they would never be able to make their money back on such an expensive short. Then one night at a nightclub, Walt was actually sitting down, and he happened to see a man by the name of Leopold Tchaikovsky. That's right, the world-famous conductor, that Tchaikovsky. Stokowski, not Tchaikovsky. Stokowski. That's it. You see, Walt met Stokowski at a nightclub, and he told Mr. Stokowski, I would love to have you conduct the music for a silly symphony I'm working on called The Sorcerer's Apprentice. I would love to have you work on The Sorcerer's Apprentice. But Stokowski, he got a different idea. He decided, since we're going to be doing The Sorcerer's Apprentice, why don't we make more shorts set to classical music? Since you're going to be basing The Sorcerer's Apprentice off of the music of the same name, Walt decided, why not? And so he decided to put more effort into making more shorts based on classical music. The classical music that was selected included, in no particular order, the Toccata and Fugue by Johann Sebastian Bach, one of my personal favorite conductors of the classic era of music, the Nutcracker Suite by Tchaikovsky, the Sorcerer's Apprentice by Paul Dukas, that Stokowski would conduct, the Rite of Spring by Igor Stravinsky, the Pastoral Symphony by Ludwig van Beethoven, the Dance of the Hours by Amilcare Ponchielli, and another one of my personal favorites, Nine on Ball Mountain. Oh, and of course the segment that comes after it, Ave Maria. You see, the film doesn't exactly have a particular story, but it doesn't really need to. I mean, none of the Silly Symphony stories even needed a story. I mean, the Skeleton Dance from 1929, it didn't have a specific plot. It just featured skeletons dancing in a graveyard at midnight. Which proves that you don't really need a story to tie together all the shorts. You don't really need to have that good of a story, in my opinion. And personally, it's one of my absolute favorite things about Fantasia. I mean, you let your mind tell you what the your mind and your eyes tell you what the story of each short is. Even though some of the shorts do have a specific plot. Like, for example, The Sorcerer's Apprentice. It apparently shows Mickey as the apprentice to a character who made a bit of a resurgence with the Kingdom Hearts video game series, Yen Sid. That's right, Yen Sid got his debut in this film. And you might be thinking, isn't Yen Sid Disney spelled backwards? Well, kind of and kind of not. I'm not really sure per se, but let's just say not very many people say that Yen Sid's name spelled backwards is Disney. Not many people think that. And again, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, it's the short that gained the most popularity because at Disney Hollywood Studio, they had a 12-story high Mickey's Sorcerer hat. They had it 12 stories high, but unfortunately they took it down a couple of years ago in order to make a bit more room. Don't really know if that makes any sense, but whatever the case, it happened. Now, Fantasia also had definitely one of the best shorts that it had. But before we get to that, I have to speak of one of the other shorts. Well, the whole film actually starts with Toccata and Fugue in D minor, one of my personal favorites because of its association with Halloween. Then it moves on to Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker Suite, which is a Christmas classic. Then it moves on to, well, I don't really know what short leads off and what short starts, but this is in no particular order. So you got the Sorcerer's Apprentice, which I talked about. You got the Rite of Spring, which is personally one of the best. It's one of my 3 favorites of this whole film because, come on, who doesn't like dinosaurs? The Rite of Spring, and then after the intermission, you have the Pastoral Symphony, which takes on a bit of a more Greek tone, a bit of ancient Greek with minotaurs and not minotaurs, but centaurs, centaurettes, and Pegasus. And then you move on into Dance of the Hours, which features animals. It doesn't really have a particular plot other than the animals dancing. But then it moves on into the short I really want to discuss, Night on Bald Mountain. You see, if you've seen Fantasia, you probably know the intro to this short. And for those of you who haven't, let me give you the rundown about Bald Mountain. Bald Mountain, according to tradition, is the gathering place of supposedly the devil and his followers. It is said to take place on one particular night, Walpurgis Night. It's pretty much the equivalent of our own Halloween, but back in the medieval ages. On this Walpurgis Night, the incarnation of evil, Chernabog, comes out of the mountain and calls forth the spirits of the dead under his spell, and they dance furiously for his amusement, until the coming of dawn and the sounds of church bells send the infernal armies and their master linking back into their abodes of darkness. This film was actually released. Walt actually made there were actually several different pitches for different shorts that would be used for Fantasia, including Ride of the Valkyries, which was storyboarded but ended up getting cut due to runtime, and one that would actually be reincarnated in another Disney film that we'll be talking about here on this channel. It was originally supposed to be Clair de Lune, but the name of the song was changed. The name of the short was changed to Blue Bayou. But again, we'll talk about that when we get to the Disney film that introduced it. But Walt actually thought, why not debut this film in a music theater or a concert hall rather than just a movie theater? And turns out that idea was actually genius because it led to the prototype of what we know as surround sound today. It was a concept that really revolutionized the film industry. What we call surround sound, back then it was called Fantasound. But ultimately, like Pinocchio, Fantasia would be a bit of a financial failure for the Disney studios, mostly due to the fact of the war in Europe cutting off overseas markets, meaning that both Pinocchio and Fantasia didn't make as much money as Snow White did back in 1937 and 1938. So let's just say that I don't think the Nazis were all too big on Disney animation. Just saying. Here's the big question. Is Fantasia really worth watching? Well, if you like a movie with a constant storyline that you can follow with, you're better off looking elsewhere. But if you're like myself or the Nostalgia Critic, and you enjoy just these separate shorts with no story connecting them, and not really caring about it, I think you might get a kick out of it. You might definitely like this film. But for all the purists out there, you'd be better off looking elsewhere. Well, thanks again for watching, everybody, and definitely keep the support going. I mean, 90 subscribers, is pretty good. And I have a feeling that 2019 might be a bit of a special year. I don't know, but let's hope for the best. Anyway, if you want to see more of my videos, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click that notification button to keep updated. And I'll see you all next time when we journey back into the animation cinema.